think. Hello.
Hello?
We might be back. We should be back.
Hello.
Hello.
Just gonna dive straight in with stuff rather than running trailers again. Hopefully, Geoff's camera will decide to show up again at some point.
There's always a chance.
What's it saying? It's got a. Apparently, you've got a poor connection, Geoff.
Yay. That sounds about right.
This is adding to the theory that it is not really Geoff, isn't it? Of
Oh,
course.
He could be not Geoff. Okay, who's left their microphone on?
It may have been me.
That sounds better.
Well, whoever's done it seems to have turned it off.
And neither confirmed nor denied that it was me.
Good day, Sir Drubals. Welcome in to definitely the first time and only time we have ever started this stream.
He lied.
He lied. The lyingest lie he ever lied. That's not the lyingest lie I've ever lied, but let's not get into that. That's not what we're here to discuss. What we are here to discuss is trade and commerce, because I might just put this segment up on YouTube and leave aside that whole earlier top conversation that we had. We're going to discuss trade and commerce. My name is John. I am joined by Geoff.
I think it's me. Hello.
We are joined by Ben.
Hello. Good to see you all again.
And we are joined by Richard.
Hello.
And we are going to discuss the trade and commerce of the realm of Tamrinor, or the continent of Tamrinor. So, a couple of things that we have already discussed. We get the feeling that Staros, the city of Staros on the coast, is sort of very much independent of main commodities. They are sort of a hub for the black market, where if you need a thing and you don't want any questions asked, you can go there and get the thing with no questions asked. Likewise, we've already discussed the fact that for the majority of our map, which I haven't reopened and will do now, for the majority of the map, we are in sort of one commerce group, one governing body of commercing.
Sorry to interrupt you, John, but we still seem to be having some issues with all cameras by the looks of things on the stream, bar your own.
It doesn't appear to be... Oh, it does appear to be coming up every so often. It's not happening on...
Keeps turning off the cameras and turning it back on again. I was wondering whether maybe... should we perhaps go to icons instead? Would that maybe...
only happening on the OBS.
Oh.
So it's not actually even happening on the guest star. It is something that OBS is having trouble with. And I haven't got the foggiest clue why it would be doing that, because all it's meant to do is show that thing.
Yeah. Obviously it's struggling tonight anyway.
There are no options for it. Obviously it's still seeing the thing because it still has your nameplates up even when it goes to black.
Yeah. It's definitely got a connection, but it's just...
But like even when it goes to the black, it still has the nameplate up. And that's not a thing that I'm adding in OBS. That is being added by the Twitch guest star. So I don't know if you want to try, I don't know, turn off your cameras and we just have your
give that a shot, I think. I'll turn off the camera on this side. You still have the block and all that, like, just get it. icon instead.
I mean, I don't
But
think it's
I figured
gonna...
it might be a little less distracting in comparison.
I don't know what it's doing, and I don't know why it's doing it, so I
Well, that's something we can
can't
solve for
fix
another day,
it.
but
Well, I mean,
it doesn't
I
matter for
can't
now.
because it's there is nothing to that. There is no error message. I'm also trying to just slightly extend this discussion because we've got another ad break coming up.
I see.
Because we started a new stream, so it's doing the starting ad break again in about a minute.
I gotcha.
So, yeah, I don't know if anyone in the chat or anyone out there knows. Technically, I guess, partially, this is still beta technology we're using for this. It's
That's true.
It's still a preview, but also it's like I could see that it was working on the preview windows that it shows me over here, but then flashing on the browser source. So yeah,
I mean, it's certainly an interesting one regardless of what's happened, but yeah, something's happened there evidently.
So yeah, let's keep going with the recap of what we had previously discussed. We're keeping the currency the same across the board, primarily because we are mostly going to be playing this in D&D. With, I suppose, partially the option is, with it being a system agnostic setting, we could, in theory, take all of these places and all of these names and play a different game in them. But
that's probably a discussion for another time about how we use this.
Oh,
how we
yeah.
rules, because.
But that's more like, if suddenly D&D does another thing, or Wizards do another thing that we don't agree with, and we suddenly have to stop playing in their setting with their game, we then have a setting that we can move. Whereas Faerun, we can't do that. That's my main reason for wanting to start doing this, is that, you know, I want the lore and all of that side of things to maintain, even if we have to start playing something else, whatever that something else happens to be. But yeah, I want it to be able to, that people can pick up, and a gold piece is a gold piece. They might have slightly different values based on where on the map you happen to be, as we did mention, sort of in Staros, they might not value the gold piece as much, so it's a little bit more worthless, and you might be more of a bartering system. Down in Sanctuary Springs, obviously it might be that things are a bit more expensive because they are harder to get there. So yeah, where do we want to start? How do we want to write this down? What are we doing here? What's the plan, guys? I look around to see no faces.
I think, is it just as simple as, you know, picking up a town and saying, what does it want and what does it need, and who has that?
I mean, pretty much is the case, more than anything else. There is one which I would like to put forward to begin with Lawfell.
Okay.
Which is because it is a location of unity and not necessarily in the greatest position, considering that you've got a great evil off to one side which is slowly decimating. You would imagine that the main city would probably want to be as far away from that as possible. But what if it actually has an item that all parties want? And I was thinking about this one in regards to the different races, in particular what they would need, and came to a conclusion that it had to be a particular stone that seems to regenerate there.
Okay.
This stone Oh, yep.
So I was thinking, if we're asking what the capital city of the country has that all the other countries need, surely the simple answer is money.
I mean,
Well,
my thought with Lawfell was, are all these places able to trade freely with each other, or does it all have to go through Lawfell? Like the government, such as it is, just decreed, you can't just trade Vector's Haven to Sanctuary Springs. You've got to trade through Lawfell.
and that's an interesting prospect, but I think it kind of goes against the founding of Lawfell as we placed it. But then again, I suppose as a new government takes over, it wouldn't surprise me if they did try something like that.
I mean, because looking at the map, all the roads,
Go to Lawfell.
it's sort of like the central nexus of the
I mean,
place.
for a start, let me just throw out there, these aren't all the places. Like,
Oh, no.
for a start, these aren't all the places, and all of the maps on the road aren't all of the roads that exist.
Right.
This isn't an extensive map as of yet of what is a continent. Like, this is a very currently high level overview of it, and there are small farming communities. There are smaller places between the big places that aren't there yet.
At the same time, wouldn't it be reasonable to assume that if Lawfell is the capital and the seat of government, they put down the regulations for trade and commerce through all the towns? So, in a metaphorical sense, yes, all trading does go through Lawfell.
Yes.
And that doesn't even have to be sort of like, horrible dictatorship thing. It's like, do Vector's Haven and Honeywell, like, do they trust each other? And maybe it's like, well, everyone is happy going through Lawfell.
That makes a lot of sense.
I'm just sort of throwing out there that we don't base it entirely on the fact that all of the roads go through Lawfell, because
No.
obviously there are roads that aren't pictured yet.
But the other side of things, Lawfell, in regards to its history and the King of Unknown Origins, the reason why I was placing down this stone, this concept, is that it would have been something which they would have been fighting over beforehand, before unity, the unity of all people, where the different races came together and built Lawfell, where Law fell.
Like, perhaps was it all like a lot of the previous wars were fought over controlling this resource,
Exactly.
and now they've set up a system where it's like not shared out equally, but they can trade and buy, and
it's fairly available to all who need it.
Yeah.
And as well as that, I would say that it had to be a regenerative resource, so it's not something which would diminish and be gone. And that's the reason why everyone wants this location, because this location, it generates, it creates. That's the reason why I wanted to I'd suggest like a stone of sorts, perhaps even named after the king, as almost. I had in my mind effectively they'd taken off a little chunk fell to those who are given rule. That this stone has reason. The reason why I say stone is that is the only reason why the dwarves would be interested in it. Because the dwarves are entirely stone and only care about stone. It would have magical properties, which is the reason why a lot of the others are interested in. Depending on what you do, it does a multitude of different things. It is effectively, it could do almost anything if you could figure out how to do it.
So are we saying it is a regenerative stone that is very receptive to being enchanted?
I think that's a good way to place it, yeah. Yeah, that's if everyone agrees.
In principle, yes, but my concern then is Lawfell has this abundant resource, essentially abundant renewable resource. What does Lawfell need? What does Lawfell need in return for that?
Well, I would say that when it comes to
the very easy one to say that they possibly don't have access to is food.
Yeah.
Like, that's a very tradable resource.
To come across at a different angle is more or less to say that they have technically an infinite resource, but it takes a lot of time for it to actually gather. So truly they have a finite source until it
Yeah.
grows again, but it's of a high quality. So,
Does it
but
also
it
need
doesn't
to be?
account for everything else.
Does it also possibly need to be refined in a certain way,
I would say so, especially depending
or
on what you
possibly at
actually want
least
it
to be
for.
its most potent?
Yeah, like
Which I
maybe
wanted.
in... Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah. Oh no, sorry. Please carry on.
Oh, I was gonna suggest, like, what if, say, like Vector's Haven or one of these other places, you know, like, say it's like they have a chemical or a substance which makes it work a little bit better.
Yeah. I was going to
So,
say
yeah.
exactly that.
Ah.
Yes.
I mean, my other thought there is also if Lawfell has it, does Vectis it like is it Vectis Haven that refines it?
I think that is the case which I was thinking, that it is something which can be used in its primal sense, but the other side, for it to have other uses, it needs to be turned into different things.
Wait,
And
are we
there
just
is.
are
Oh,
we
yeah?
are we just are we just are we just saying that the world is now nuclear powered and we're just like giving we're basically giving the world uranium, is what we're saying.
Oh, that's a brilliant idea. That's not cause any
That's
problems.
not going to be any issue, is it?
Yeah.
Uranium's fine and perfectly without problems.
I would place an argument for that if you've got a magic system, basically you have that in the world anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Which is good actually, because it fulfills what we've said. It's like, you know, it's a resource that Lawfell has that other people want. They have resources that Lawfell wants. We have a trade system going, and we also have a seed for future storylines.
so my question
Yes.
Weapons, yeah.
is, let's just work on this. I'm going to throw out the name Casamite
Like it.
Yeah.
because we've got King Casimir and we're saying that we're going to name it after him, and I think Casimirite might actually already be a stone, so let's go back a bit and call it Casamite. So my first thought was there are sort of two ways that you could take a magical stone, and one of them is it's really good at being enchanted. Like it's highly susceptible to taking on enchantments, and I don't know, works a little bit like Shardalen does in say some D&D games that some of you might be playing in at the moment.
Yes.
Where you've got this resource that is highly susceptible to being enchanted. The other sort of magical resource being refined that springs to mind when you say a magical stone being mined up somewhere is the Critical Role Residuum. Is everybody in the council familiar enough do I need to explain what Residuum is?
I am going to need an explanation. Plus, the other side, if we've got someone in the audience who doesn't know, I think it might be worth.
This is fair. Residuum is a magical stone that has appeared in the backstory of Percy from Critical Role Vox Machina series as a resource that his hometown produced and has sole access to the only place that it can be mined in their world, Exandria. It is a highly magical stone that can take the place of material components in spells. So where a spell's material component might have a magical a cost associated with it, an amount of residuum can replace that material component. Whereas normally that's not possible. And it might have other magical effects based on what the DM needs it to do at the time.
Yeah.
Did this by any chance lead to a big war over control of this? We got from people who thought that perhaps Percy's hometown shouldn't be the only place that has.
There have been
access to this.
attacks on the hometown because of this. But as far as I know, during the time that we know of the town existing, there hasn't been any great wars fought over it.
I mean, I know my feeling was always about, is it Whitestone?
Yes.
Was that because it's not a big place? This is like, just picking a completely hypothetical fictional example of a small country finding oil, like a ton of oil.
Completely hypothetical situation
Yeah,
here. How
and
would
then
that
everyone
go
else
down?
goes, yeah. Well, everyone else goes, well, yeah, we could buy it off them and trade, but they've got 10 soldiers and we've got 1 million. Let's just go over there and take it. So that's
Who would do a thing like that? Seriously.
I can't think of anyone. So my thought is unrefined chasmite. I can't remember what we called it now. Chasmite
Casamite.
works as a really enchantable stone, so you can use it to make really good enchanted magic items. But when you refine it, you sort of get something along the lines of residuum that can replace magic, or can replace the magic requirements of spells.
Which of its two forms would be more valuable?
Yeah. So the raw stuff is like easily enchantable.
Both of them
And-
have their value,
Yeah.
but
I think when it comes,
the refined version would be more valuable to more people.
and I think it would have to be, otherwise why would you go through the process of refining it?
Yeah.
Because not everybody can enchant stuff, but almost any spellcaster can do spells that require material components.
I mean,
This could lead on to a whole different conversation about how common magic is, actually, to be honest.
I was going to ask this actually, because my thought was, what if this stone is the opposite? What if it's something that repels magic or protects against magic? So you've got your castle, you've spent a fortune on it, and some wizard turns up, knacks it in a second.
Fireball, you're all dead.
Yeah, or shape earth or whatever.
Or perhaps it even goes to suggest that there might be a rarer stone out there. For the sake of generally in nature, where for everything which is created, there usually seems to be something which is its opposite to a degree. That perhaps there is a stone out there which is the entire opposite, but perhaps it hasn't been found.
So,
for the sake of it, we've got quite a. Oh, sorry, yeah.
According to our notes, Tamrinor is a medium to low magic setting. I realise I haven't turned on the share of the screen again, have I? You can't see the notes I'm looking at.
Well, I'm using Twitch, so it's okay. I'm just watching along with the audience.
you get the notes with a few seconds delay. Oh, well.
I do, yes.
Discord screen sharing is an opening, so yeah.
Yep.
Enjoy it on Twitch, guys. With several seconds
so we're
delay.
on Twitch a few seconds later.
Tamrinor is a medium to low magic setting where magic is available to some, but most know they can't rely on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a setting.
But having said that, what we've got now, we just described as a resource that makes it more reliable.
Yeah,
that's true.
More reliable for those of you that, for one, those that can get it, and for two, those that can utilize it. Because it doesn't give you magical power if you don't have it.
Oh, so many abilities.
But then we get into it of like how like sort of talking about population knows how the good thing about oil is that it can be, you don't need any special ability to be able to use it.
Anyone can set fire to it.
You can set fire to it. If you want to say that this very valuable thing can only be utilized by such a small number of people.
Oh no! Actually, you've got it even. Okay, so unrefined, it takes enchantments. Enchantments can be used. It is the only form of magic that everyone can use.
Oh boy.
It has to be enchanted by someone who knows magic.
We're heading into what's his face from Dragon Age territory, aren't we? Enchantment. Enchantment.
But that solves that problem. That's the reason why everyone wants it, is because they can use it for all manner of things they could potentially need. It almost becomes like, if you're a farmer and you are close to the desert, you don't get that much rain, but you have a way to manifest water.
In that case, should we flip it on its head and say the raw form is the form that's more valuable to wizards, but the refined form is more valuable to everyman?
That
Yes.
makes some
So
sense.
Yeah. Like the refines what your everyday person might have some use for,
Yeah.
but the raw thing is like, oh, wizards like, oh, I'd love to get my hands on a nugget of Chasmite, and what could
So
I do with that?
let's put some
Because
notes
the other
down
side of
on
which you could say
digital
when it comes
paper.
down to the refined stuff as well, is because it's been refined, that it has limited use. By using it, it wears down and disappears.
That's it. And hence
Yes.
that's where you get your
Ah,
supply and demand from as well for trade.
yeah. And that's how it's got to be sort of carefully managed as well, because you don't want to, like, I suppose, run out of the. Yeah, I like that. That's really good.
But to go back onto the point while John's typing away, and another thing which I was thinking is once again going with the whole concept of its opposite, a stone which can deplete magic away from a magic user, or any form of magic being thrown at it effectively. And that perhaps there has been a suggestion of one in the desert. It is our largest unknown area, and would explain why, if we are making it a very, it costs a lot to get anything while you're there, it's a dangerous place in the first place. It would
You
be the
can't just
reason why
teleport.
so many people go out there to find things.
But also,
they're
as
going there to look for-
as Richard says, you can't teleport there if magic don't work near it. You can't scry on things if magic don't work near it. You can't use
Exactly.
divination magic if magic don't work on it.
Yeah.
Ooh, so we've got two things going. We've got the stone that makes magic as a whole easy to use, and the stone that makes it harder to use.
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Both, like,
So it has a natural supply.
Remember,
that
it's
does
been
the
found.
opposite. Yeah, like I like that.
But I like the idea of it being somewhere in the desert where it's difficult to get your hands on. But maybe there's a reason why the desert, is because it's literally had whatever residual magic which might have brought life sapped away.
I mean, like, just looking at this map, there's very clearly there's like a band in the middle of, you know, fertile, prosperous land. Is that because it's got more of that first rock than this one? So, you know, as well as like sort of magic, see, like, you know, life, whatever that force is easier to prosper there.
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry, you cut out, I think. Or you all just stopped talking at the same time, which is very bad for radio.
I think we all
There's a
just stopped
chance of
talking.
both.
Yeah, very bad for the radio, guys, is if all of you stop talking at the same time.
I think it's one of those things that sometimes you end up thinking about what you're talking about.
So, added it. Given time, Chasmite regenerates, leading to an endless supply as long as it isn't entirely depleted. So does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Sounds good. Yep.
Sounds good to me.
I mean, I bet, like, I know I wouldn't get this again, but you know, like, you go to some places where, like, there's money, there's coins or notes, or whatever, but there's another thing that is as good as money, and like, it seems to me like the refined thing of this would be like,
Well,
that is as valuable, as tradable, as dependable as a piece of gold would be.
well, just to take that point, you know, you got, like, you know, your coins and your notes and whatever, but they have to represent something. There has to be something behind them for them to have value.
Refined Chasmite is the gold standard.
Well, I mean, if the coin's literally gold, as in all the way, like, you know, a solid bit of gold, you know, bronze but coloured gold, you know, then that's someone saying, well, that's worth one. So it you know, It
And
depends.
it kind of makes sense to do that. It's pretty much like our paper money.
Yeah.
It's not got the worth itself,
Yeah.
but it is a representation of the worth.
But that's a complicated system. The
It's a
idea of
very
like saying,
complicated system
yeah,
and requires banking
yeah.
effectively.
I mean, I know
Whereas
that.
if you actually have a gold piece of a particular size,
Mhm.
stamped is worth a gold piece of a particular size.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's a story about like when the Romans and the Persians wanted to trade with India, and the Romans said, "Oh, weigh one of our coins each," and because the Roman one was heavier, it was like, "Oh, that's got more gold in." So like they trusted the Roman gold more, their coins more, because they go, "Well, that's just copper painted on like with 5% gold in, but theirs is like
Oh, boy.
80-90%. So we're gonna do business with them." So like I think that it was saying like oh, you gotta trust, as with like paper money, that there's something there to back that up, is a lot. you know it doesn't always work well today, does it? Like we
Well,
have problems.
we
Yeah,
see we've seen what happens when it fails.
yeah.
Lehman Brothers going down. Not my fault.
Hmm.
So
It
I've
just
noted
makes it inter-
I've noted under Vectis Haven, I've got a list now of sort of has, wants, and makes.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
So Vectis Haven makes are listed as can refined chasmite into a refined state, a material that can take enchantment easier than other items.
I know one thing I was going to perhaps raise, because I know there's a whole idea of like trying to unify these disparate groups into one. And it sounds like Vector's Haven can do something with this material, and Lawfell can do something with this material. Would it be an idea where like they intentionally set it up so every major area on the map could do one thing, so you have to work together? Like
That makes a lot of sense.
like you can't just say, "Oh, well, screw Vector's Haven, we don't sod them." It's like, well, if you do that, then you're missing out a step of this, and almost like saying that there's a law like you cannot have a refinery, outside of Vector's Haven. That is exclusively what they get to do. They have a monopoly on that.
I mean, I also feel that part of that is. Sorry, I'm going to move Discord over this side of the screen so that I can see it still. I feel that one of the other reasons that you wouldn't want the refineries anywhere else is we have discussed how terrible Vectis Haven is.
There is a very good
reason?
chance that I could very well be adding to the reasoning that, and this is they are the only ones who are willing to take on the job of refining it.
I mean, there has to be a
Because of
reason
what-
that it's so terrible and yet people still keep
People live-
doing
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It is still being done in the way that it is being done. And if the way that it is being done is the only way that it works, like the only material process that works to make this item has to go through this really terrible process of whatever is happening to it,
Yeah.
then that makes sense, at least in my head, that's why it makes sense that they would keep doing this, and also why you wouldn't get, like,
Haven takes it.
It's
and
like, oh yeah, we're perhaps not happy, but we see the benefit of poisoning our city effectively to make all this money.
Or does it be a benefit? Is it just like, is it just like, this is a law passed down from, the governing body, the King Casimir, that Vectis Haven, for whatever reason, this is your job now?
I'm potentially.
I wonder whether it's more on lines of almost like the Fellowship of the Ring kind of thing. Because once again, it was built around unity. That was the whole point of Lawfell and what it stands for, and what the King first stand for. Was this whole thing that we are here to unify, and I half wonder whether it came down to it got claimed that when it came down to like gathering knowledge, that obviously went to the avians. When it came down to the resource of the greatest stones which we can find went to the dwarves, and such forth and such forth. that when it came down to the refining process, that it has such a terrible thing that Vectis is like, we can do that. It's not a glorious job, but it's one which needs to be done, which probably actually gives it a higher standing for its resource. That it knew it didn't have much to give, but what it could give actually makes everything so much better. It gives an opportunity for the lower to have a higher place in a world and be seen with a higher regard just for the sake that they are one of the refiners.
I suppose, you know, it's like in the 1800s when you had like the big industrial cities, and like all the old like London or whatever, all the other places will like look down on Manchester or Sheffield. But it's like, do you want the steel from Sheffield? Do you want the industry from Manchester? Then like you've got to listen to them. You can't just ignore them.
No, exactly. It is one of those things. It's nice that it's also giving an ability for those who maybe don't have that much power to effectively have power in this world. That by taking, I mean, it reminds me almost like the Guinness workers in Ireland, who were taken in the highest regard around Dublin, just for the sake that you work at Guinness, you are one of the best lads possible. You are the heroes of the town. I can imagine it being a bit like that. That it gave status to those who never had status in their life.
So throwing it out there, tossing a line or whatever, we need a want that Vectis Haven has. And status is great, but you can't pay your bills with exposure.
Yeah.
But
And
if
they want to keep things going.
Well, the thing is, if the refining process takes a terrible toll on the landscape around Vectis Haven, they can't do farming. So they might have a lot of fish. Possibly have a lot of fish.
Yeah.
Maybe I think maybe moving away from the idea that Vectis Haven is a fishing town now. If we're saying it's a refining town, we moved away from it being a fishing town, so there's still.
You couldn't fish, or you couldn't bring in the fish if you wanted to. That the fishing is almost on the outskirts, because you still need that resource anyway. So they still pull that in, but a lot of the town has been given to this process of refinement.
I mean, the thing I'm not saying as well, where it's like Vectis Haven seems to be described as well, like the major port town on the west coast. I know effectively there isn't an east coast, is there? Like that's the
not anymore.
And if they are seeing this city is going to be this big refinery place, is it also going to double as a major like port for stuff coming in? Because for one thing, you might not want to bring your stuff into the poison town, you know, and just start thinking like, does that mean you need another site that's going to serve as the port?
We need a new port town, basically.
I mean, your current options. Your current options are Poison Town or Pirate Town. So I mean,
well, the other side of things, looking at the great distance that we've got between, we do also have some rivers connecting, which I know we basically said that Vectis Haven one's a lot more stretched out, but if we end up saying that the three central ones, or the main river, is there for a reason, that is effectively how the refining is done, is through that great force.
Yes.
In which case, the two minimal ones, North and South, you can even place those as North and South Haven, effectively, are the places where you can get the stuff in. I would say that potentially that the North Haven would be a bit more of a risky one because Staros is so close, and then the South one, but it really comes down to cost and how far you want to make the stuff travel. But they give you some locations which would be away from this polluted town if you have something which is a bit more of refined nature.
we've got a story coming out now, haven't we? We've got the story of Vectis that was the major town, but
Yeah.
then then they used it for turned it into a refinery, and as a result, the import trade has now moved away from Vectis Haven to other towns, and Vectis Haven is now this a shadow, completely opposite of what it once was. And
But again,
that's like
that happens, doesn't it? Like where Venice was once the major trading city in
Oh, yeah.
Europe, and now it's a tourist attraction. Like it had to reinvent itself.
Oh yeah, well, you can thank Napoleon for that, really. I think.
Oh, that would be a fun one. That's the reason why Vectis Haven looks so steampunk. It used to be a lot more of a fantasy side of things, but literally have ended up ripping through buildings and creating bits in and around it to make this brand machine, as it were, that would work and be able to allow this stuff to work. It had to reinvent itself in that sense, and they had to reinforce the others and reinvent the others just to be able to keep up with the other commerce which is needed every day.
So are we going with North and South Haven?
Yeah,
I thought that was a brilliant idea. Like,
why not? Yeah.
So
Well, sorry, which just came up as just literally top of the mind is like, okay, that's good.
So my thoughts are that North Haven is the fishing place, South Haven is the port place, because as we've said, if you try to take valuable items within too close to North Haven or to North Haven, you are too close to Staros, and they might not be pirates any longer, but
And
they still are
again,
sort of pirates.
there's a story there. Like, is that why Staros exists?
Yeah, maybe.
What, does
No,
Staros
yeah.
exist because of the port being there, or does the port exist because
The Staros exists. Trade moved down to South Haven. So again, North Haven is now a shadow of what it was as a fishing village.
Was that the only one where Geoff cut out?
No, Geoff cut
No,
out
no, it could
entirely for everybody.
Do you want me to try that again then? So
Please.
North Haven was the port where goods and valuables were imported. As a result, Staros appeared as a lair for pirates and smugglers to prey on North Haven. As a result of that, trade moved to South Haven, and North Haven was left as a fishing village.
Makes sense. I do like the idea there as well when it came down to thanks to everything which comes out of the Vectis Haven, but it sort of almost keeps Staros a bit at bay. There's something about what happens to the water, whether it's magical essence or whatnot, but it does something to the water around there.
Yeah.
Because I know my question would be looking at Staros is if it's a pirate or semi-pirate place that's really near, effectively, like it's not, often it's like, if it was on one of these islands, I'd go, all right, yeah, it's a bit separate. But I'd be like, why doesn't an army just turn up at Staros and go, you're going to stop the piracy? Or
I mean,
we're gonna kill a lot
I
of you?"
think that Staros started as a den for piracy and smugglers, but both like the leadership of Staros and the people of Tamrinor will have they've all come to not necessarily a written agreement, but there's just sort of an agreement that there is a needed amount of turn the other way, look at the other thing, and it's beneficial to the people that have settled in Staros that they get like the black market and stuff, and it's beneficial to everybody around to be like, well, yeah, we know
Don't
that
let
it's
things
happening,
get out of hand. Yeah.
but don't go too far.
Yeah.
Sort
One of
of
those bits of having a necessary risk, as it were.
Yeah, sort of the Lord Veterinary school of don't do too much. And
If
also,
we're gonna have crime, it might as well be organised crime.
yes, it will run to schedule.
Because the other side of things, when it comes down, especially for other bits which are outside continent, having these people that seem to work with no government in the first place, and being able to make a deal of, hey, could you perhaps sail into these waters and just let us know what you're seeing over there?
Yeah.
Actually makes some sense.
They're nothing to do with us, though. They're just some guys.
Yeah, exactly. The whole thing of, they're nothing to do with us. You don't have to worry about them. Which works so perfectly for the sake of, well, effectively, they become like the privateers, the pirates under orders. But once again, how do you know? Because the other side of things, the other governments, and this opens up to a whole lot of things. You can make a mystery game out of this aspect of which pirates are actually telling you the truth about the information they're giving you. Because there's always a chance they've gone over to the other side and have got a better pay. So you get them treated just about right on our side. And you've always got that gamble that they might jump over to the other. So constantly just try and keep them sweet. Oh. I'm now just trying to imagine what the process is. So I imagine that it's a lot of, once again, the other reason why it has to be a Vectis Haven is that it takes a huge process. It takes up so much space to create these machines which thrust with power and require coal and logs and all this to grind and to pound and to do whatever else.
Surely there you are then. Surely that's what Vectis Haven needs. It needs fuel.
They need all the things you need for industry.
Pretty much.
So they say like coal, timber, even like chemicals and stuff. Like do they need acids or catalysts and whatever else to make this stuff work?
And that makes a lot of sense in itself, and it would require so much to make it work. You can imagine that it started off, there's be a whole history behind this, where it started off with just the whole town coming together and trying.
Yeah.
But the process was too difficult to begin with, and they brought in the first machine. And effectively, this person designed a machine which would do the first job, and then they realized that as time progresses, that they need more and more of these machines to do these things, and now it becomes effectively a town of engineers looking after the machine, keeping it running. What Vectis Haven is a load of engineers, effectively.
A load of engineers and just one big machine.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking you could have there's engineers, like these technical skilled people. But again,
it's tentacle skilled people. Then I think, what are we playing again?
No. But you've got like this sounds awful as well. Again in Victorian times when they had these machines and well, I made it. That 12-year-old's gonna be inside that machine, and when it jams, it's got to put its hand in and fix it.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be like an underclass of people who do the.
And the other side of things, when it comes down to those bits, because you're having to deal with them every day, it's one of those oddities that effectively, if we had artificers in our campaigns, which we probably will, there's a high chance that they came from Vectis Haven, having learnt how their part of the machine works, or haven't learned because they're actually actively doing it. But effectively, everyone there becomes an expert, but because you're around experts, you're a regular.
Yeah.
You're your average day. If you ever leave and go to other places, you might be seen as a more of an expert there. But
that also leads on to family industry as well. So you're an engineer, your father was an engineer, your grandfather's an engineer. The knowledge is passed down from generation to generation.
Well, are we going to be talking like guilds where it's like you can't just be an engineer?
Which makes sense.
You've got to join the engineering guild, and that's the only way you go about it.
I mean, especially if you're going to be an engineer from Vector's Haven, because you are holding the name of Vector's Haven by calling yourself that.
But also, they don't want some Honeywell people working out how to do all this stuff. They want to keep it, in the family, as it were,
those soft-handed Honeywell people.
Yeah. I like how we've started the prejudices and disagreements of the.
Well, that's how it starts probably as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, once again, it's that whole thing of trying to hold on to what you have, and especially if this is what brings you prosperity, it's not something you're going to let it go lightly. And even though we're in a place which is under unity, it doesn't mean that there can't be. You don't do what we do. We do what we do.
Okay. So we've got North Haven, South Haven, Vector's Haven. We've discussed Lawfell and what they have. And have we also said Lawfell. What do they want? Because at the moment I've got noted down food.
I mean, generally speaking, considering that we've squeezed so many different bits into there, I mean, I'm half tempted for the sake that this is also the hub where Casamite is in the first place. I would imagine if we have a wizard's college or something along those lines, it would definitely be there. In which case, there would be a requirement of pretty much of any magical resource would want to be taken there. You would want to, obviously, your foods, your waters, once again, you're going to need those from the surrounding areas because you don't have that in Lawfell itself. Pretty much, Lawfell needs almost anything else, but it just holds a high. It's like sitting on top of a gold mine. You have the gold mine, but you don't have anything else.
Well, I think they have the gold mine, effectively. The Casamite mines.
Yeah.
They have the water because they have access to Siren's Harbour and the rivers. So yeah, I think food, building materials
food would definitely
even.
be the key one. I would say, materials, especially for the sake of clothing and stuff like that, or at least the materials to make them.
I think there seems to be a big forest to the west. Is that a forest?
It is a forest, but it's also an owned forest.
It's a what, sorry?
It's a forest which is owned by the peoples of it.
Right, so they can't.
They can't just willy-nilly go and chop everything down, if I remember correctly. So once again, this is the other reason behind the unity is that Lawfell was built by all these people coming forth with their different resources building, which made a very higgledy-piggledy place with very different styles made from very different things. Making it quite an interesting place to be, where you could see remnants of almost any resource there.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really interesting, the sort of setup, because there's so many inbuilt tensions to this thing of like, we are separate peoples in some ways and separate places, but we are united. There's so much you can do with that for like storytelling and tension and.
So.
Oh god, yeah.
Shall we have a quick look at? I mean. Actually, I need to make some notes about Staros, so continue talking for a moment.
Yeah. I will say, I do also agree with Tanny, who's in the audience. Hello, Tanny. I don't know why I just waved at the camera. You can't see that. But, but Spices is another brilliant one, which once again did envelop in our world for the sake of reaching out and trying to connect the world together, which does beg a question: is there something like that in this world? Because we have our continent. Is there something which is perhaps famed from another continent, maybe drifted in?
We have a port.
I was going to ask you, like, what's beyond this continent? Like, is there a whole world of equally, to loaded term perhaps, but civilized people who could have ships and trade and.
Because I believe there probably would be. And once again,
it
the real
makes
question
sense
is,
that
but
there would be.
it might come down, but that's something which we need to sort of stretch into a bit later on. But it does beg a question: is there something that this entire continent is lacking that could potentially be found in another place? Mind you, that's more food for thought for a bit later on.
Yeah, I mean,
But
let's focus on the fact that we're building a continent, and let's not try to build the trade and commerce for an entire world that we don't have
Oh.
information about, knowledge of, or need to build at the moment. Because, to be fair, building an entire continent is enough, and more than enough for us to start technically playing a D&D game. Because we could build a city and get started.
About the only thing which I want to place down is that, considering that we have focused a little bit more on the magic and the enchantment, that perhaps this place doesn't have the strongest of metal. It has strong metal, but not the strongest, so effectively wouldn't have the adamantine along those lines. But other places which are not so reliant on magic have actually delved more into acquiring other things to defend against such issues. And so you end up with a region which is a lot more war-based, a lot more physical fighting-based, rather than magic-based. Even though this is only mildly magic-based. Because once again, it kind of has that little logic that if you are in a world which is so drawn out by magic, you would try to go with the magic. But if you don't, then you're going to work with what you have.
Yeah.
It makes sense because, like you're saying, metals would come from the mountains, presumably. So Lorfell is not near the mountains, therefore Lorfell does not have ready access to metal. It needs to trade for it.
And this is the thing as well. The only ones who dig in these mountains are the dwarves. And there's a chance that the dwarves don't really know how much importance more powerful metals really have. They might have enough for basic armor, but maybe not going so...
They're just dwarves and they're digging holes.
Yeah, pretty much.
I had that song running on repeat in my head all for the last few days.
It's understandable. It happens to me all the time.
Okay, so moving away from the west of the map for the moment. What's that Hadoop sound? Let's work that one out later. Oh, it's I remember what it is. It's this auto-saving. Thank you very much. Wonderdraft. So we've got Stone's Grave, which is the dwarven towns. We've got Tor Galade, which is the heart of the elven towns. We've got Honeywell, which is the heart of, I believe, the halfling sort of the halfling communities. Yeah, that's basically what we're saying, Tanny, is it's very much the trade is for things that are useful for the people that are there. In Staros, they don't have much need of money. Like, you can maybe sell art if the person likes it. So Honeywell. We've got it noted that Honeywell is a small settlement with a small stream that runs past the town, not big enough to make, like, not a big enough stream to make a larger settlement. It's tucked into the foothills of the mountain ranges, and there is a chill in the air, but they have nice warm fires in their homes, and it's nice and cozy. But we've also mentioned it's a farming community. So is Honeywell one of the places that makes food? Because we've got a lot of places that need food.
Yes, that makes sense straight up.
Oh god,
So,
yeah.
I mean, the one thing I'd say about that is, if it is, I know these dividing lines on the map are probably less extreme, but it's getting then up into the sort of frozen north. Would that be a rich agricultural area?
It's supposed to be on the edge. I may have missed it too far
Oh
in.
no,
It is
but
meant
there
to
could
be on the edge of the arable area.
yeah, yeah, and it could be as well. You know, like that the soil is incredibly fertile, and it's not
Yeah.
so much the weather, but the something in the soil that's
I-
so good.
In my mind, well, especially with the small stream, I imagine effectively a line of a few mills which they use to grind down with the wheats which they grow and their particular wheat and such. For some reason, I have it in my mind effectively them being some of the best alcohol makers. They are the ones who make the best ales and stuff
That's what
like
I was
that.
gonna say. I was gonna say that I think they should be brewers, and that they do all that sort of thing. But
Here's one of those things that, yeah, brewery just felt perfect for them, really.
now I was wondering if they could be like artisans. So they're your very talented carpenters. You're very talented. So if you want like a good table, you get a good table from Honeywell.
Oh yeah,
Like
and I
that's
think
sort
the
of
other
it where
side
it's-
of things though is that it's gonna take time. It takes a lot of time for them.
yeah, they are skilled. They are
Yeah,
you know
they are the most skilled artisans around, but for that reason, they are the most skilled artisans. They just take the longest time as well. But you will end up with something which is beyond compare.
The only thing I would say possibly against them being artisans and brewers and farmers is that's putting three distinct different things in what is meant to be a reasonably small community.
Yeah.
And
pick
also,
one then.
they don't have wood.
No,
They-
no. The way I saw that one happening was more along the lines of they'd started off with some bits, and when it came down to them making their brewery, I can imagine them. They've got in the wood, they've got in the bits and pieces which they needed, and I can imagine they decorated. People have taken a look at that side of things. So effectively, if you want anything done by them, you have to bring them everything, resources and such, which is probably the second way which they could gain income. You bring them the bits and pieces, and they will slowly work on it.
So, do we want to keep? Because I think 2 out of the 3 we can put there. Do we want them to be
So
brewers, artisans, or food makers?
well, I mean, I do think brewers. I think making alcohol and farming go hand in hand.
they do.
So let's keep that there are some fine artisans. We'll put them somewhere else. We'll work that one out.
Me.
Did you drop out there?
You dropped out for me as well a bit, yeah.
We'll put the artisans somewhere else.
Okay, that's fine.
We'll keep that there are a fine artisan that you can go to that makes really nice things. They're not in Honeywell.
But that's not their specialty.
Farmers.
Because I do like the idea of them being alcohol makers, just for the sake of the whole thing. To make a decent brew, it takes time. It
It's
takes
also-
a relaxing, slow period, which just feels right for them.
I also feel that that's like they are the ones that stay at home. Like we've established
Yes.
that the
Yeah.
halflings don't tend to leave. Obviously, there are going to be halflings that do go off on adventures, and we have mentioned
Wait.
the reverse Gandalf.
As I say, have we found our Bilbo Baggins?
But if you are the farmers, if you are the brewers, you've got a good reason that you can stay at home. You don't need
Yeah.
for a lot else from outside because you've got the nice place, you've got the food, you sell the food, somebody comes through town and buys the food and takes it somewhere else to sell it for more money, or
Yep.
you send the, young Jim Bob Hobbit off to the market to sell the cow for 5 gold beans or whatever.
To be fair, that is your brilliant way of getting how halfling adventurers come to be. Is effectively they got sent out for a delivery
And they
And they
and
got
got
never went
inspired
back.
by the world. Yeah, exactly. They just got inspired enough that
Well,
they
like
wanted a better
Deliveroo.
adventure.
And you're like, oh, this looks interesting. Well, I was delivering this pizza.
Just the Deliveroo driver that just never goes home again after
Yeah.
making the delivery.
I think as well, like, if you assume that these people don't want to leave, obviously it's like, say if someone in law felt like, oh, we're going to go to war, so we need an army, and you would probably go, yeah, but we need to have those people up in Honeywell. They don't join the army. They don't in mass. They don't come. They don't get conscripted into our army. They need to be farming. We can't do without them.
It's a valuable resource, that their food.
Yeah.
Mm.
There's no point winning the battle if next harvest we're all starving because
We don't have no
Well, this is
food.
the thing. Yeah. An army marches on its stomach after all. They're not going to get far if they ain't got nothing there. Oh, and that could open up some interesting possibilities as well. Because if it is a pinnacle location of sorts, where let's say that Honeywell has almost become like a hub of some of the farmers and the farmland around that area. Well, they don't go anywhere, but because they've got the stream, because they've got a way that there's an easier access to Honeywell than there is to their other locations, everyone brings to Honeywell.
Yeah. That's not
Then
a
that
bad
becomes an
shout.
interesting story point, because if you were an invading army or something like that, surely one of the few quick places you want to take out is the locations where the food is being generated. Take out Honeywell, you stop that entire cycle for a while, or you at least make it more difficult. Which means that soon the armies of Lorfell will be starving.
I mean, it also makes it
at least
sound
from
like
that one
that's
point.
not it's not a place that they are going to leave unguarded. You're going to have some
it
people
is,
keeping
like-
an eye on the main hub for all of your food.
But as well, it's like it's away from the coasts. It's near the mountains, and I think Sunspire and Stonegrave, they're essentially in the same country, right? So like, there's not.
Yes.
If someone's invaded and got to Honeywell, they must control half the country already. Like, so maybe it's a thing of like. Vietnam, starts at Dover and gets to Manchester, like
Somebody's going to have noticed by that point.
well, yeah, you don't need an army at Honeywell, like a big army to ward off invasions, because your borders would be the bit you'd protect. If that
Yeah,
makes
it's
sense.
a truth that it would be very much protected already by just what happens to be around, unless it is a smaller party which has been sent in with a primary cause. Effectively, you're almost thinking like the Fellowship of the Ring, apart from they're there to sneak in and destroy one section in the middle. Doesn't matter if you survive afterwards, but if you've destroyed that one part, you already have destroyed one of the major cogs. In which case you end up with an interesting storyline of effectively trying to sniff out who is the traitor trying to destroy Honeywell before they have a chance to actually do so.
Well, I do think there's an interesting thing going on where but it does also mean it's vulnerable.
Sorry, you cut out entirely
cut out.
for me there. You said, I do think there's something very interesting, and then it just stopped.
Yeah.
We'll
well,
never know what the interesting thing
yeah.
is.
So see, like the sort of important resources and stuff are spread out. So Vectis Haven's industry and Honeywell does a lot of food. That's good for Unity because obviously then Vectis Haven needs Honeywell and Honeywell needs Vectis Haven. It does mean that like if Vectis Haven were conquered, then that's a huge blow to the country, or like it makes it vulnerable as well. That so much industry or so much food production is in these very specific areas, or even like if Vectis Haven say we're on strike,
Yeah.
we want lower taxes.
Which I suppose it could be another storyline going down the route at one point. And this is the thing, you're opening up for a world of possibilities and literally creating a world.
Mm.
Which I think is the best part, because anything which we create, anything which we've suggested, we're effectively creating one point in a timeline, and who only knows where it will go from here. Which is the part I love more than anything else, because you do end up with these beautiful questions. And it is that whole side of things that, yes, you could effectively end up with a civil war effectively going on, where people believe that they are owed so much more for what they do in comparison, and they're not being treated right, and so thus the strikes happen, in which case all of a sudden the particular magical resource is now dwindling because it's not being created anymore.
Okay, so what does Honeywell not have that they need?
Well, I think one of the greatest ones to start off with was brilliantly pulled up earlier, protection.
Yeah,
It is unprotected.
it
So
sounds like
is
they're
that
not.
something you trade for?
So effectively, when it comes down to it, they have an agreement to give out some of their wares and bits and pieces for the sake of protection. It's a mutual agreement of sorts, more on lines of that they felt like they need to protect them anyway. But with obviously the avians who fight are effectively negative avians, there is always going to be a chance that something's going to happen, and you know that it will come from the mountains. So you gain yourself protection or forewarning that something is going to happen.
I mean, I think that to me makes the most sense for the thing they need the most. Is if they're doing all the farming, if they're doing the brewing, if they're doing these things where it sounds like most of what they do is not concerned with defense or fighting. What they really need is security.
Yeah.
Do they also need like the trade caravans? Like, are they
That would
sending
be
them
the
out,
other side of it.
or are they? Is that something that they're like, somebody comes through and takes away the excess food because it's not going to do us any good here. We've got enough. It goes, and we get like pelts, and we get I don't know, wood for the fire, and
Yeah. Well, that would be the big ones when it comes down to it. I believe that the majority of their trading probably would go through Lawfell as well, because once again, easiest connection. And so, yeah, they need the wood. It comes through Lawfell. Lawfell is the one who offers them protection, because they constantly bring the food in, which can then go out to wherever it needs to go.
It is Lawfell like a really big city, like a big population.
I don't think we've actually placed down what its exact population is, but it does seem to be the biggest location of the area.
Yeah, because then like, again, this is a thing of like they have a special relationship, in that when they're sending out scouts and soldiers and whatnot, and who's going to protect it, like Honeywell is specially looked after, and they keep the food coming, and like how long would Lawfell, if all the food stopped from Honeywell, like how many days is it before Lawfell is starving? Like, is it so precarious that it needs constant?
I would think with the size that we've got, sort of comparing Honeywell to Lawfell, Honeywell might be one of the main hubs, but it's not the only place they're getting food from. Like, it's not a case of if Honeywell suddenly goes on strike or there's suddenly a bad winter in Honeywell, I don't think Lawfell is suddenly just going to switch off overnight. I think it might not be a nice time for them.
Yeah, it's
not an all eggs in one basket situation.
No. There is plenty of room for other farmland, in which case they would be getting in, but we would say that effectively Honeywell is the main source, the important source that they're holding on to. Because there is plenty of land around, and it's more... and the Honeywell is on, and the other farmlands which happen to be around that area, perhaps they're able to make something which is far more sustainable and lasts a lot longer for the sake of what it is. Plus the reason why it's a more important resource to gain and hold on to. Because if you're in a world where, unless you are using up magic, which we don't have a limitless supply of, you need to find a way to preserve food. Perhaps Honeywell is the key at the moment, because it already has food which preserves itself effectively.
I think, as we've also mentioned, I think there are other smaller farming communities around Honeywell that sort of funnel all of the food into Honeywell for the trade to go further on.
Yes.
As well.
If Honeywell vanished, those other places might have a harder time getting there.
Pick up the orders and all that sort.
But it wouldn't be impossible. It'd just be like, oh crap, this is going to take some...
This is going to take some logistical working out. I feel that we've got 3 spaces we still need to talk about. And one of them I've got some idea for.
Ooh.
Okay.
Which means 2 of them I don't, and we'll have to work it out when we get there. So which way do we want to go? Do we want to go to the ones that...
I'm going to say that you've got an idea. I'd personally like to hear it.
I want to hear your ideas.
Okay. Actually, I think we've got 4 more places we need to discuss, but 2 of them have some sort of resources that are around them. Stone's Grave is the heart of the Dwarven Empire. We've got a couple of things that we've already discussed the dwarves are doing. They are constantly mining in search of the living rock to make more dwarves. And so therefore they have a lot of not living rock, otherwise just known as rock.
Yep.
And they have a lot of metal that just gets annoyingly in the way of things. Or at least in their perspective of it. All this useless metal is here, and we maybe like make our tools out of it or armors out of it, but for the most part we ship it off elsewhere. So I think what they have is stone and metal.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they... I don't think they need food in the same way that other people need food.
No.
I mean, I always thought with someone like dwarves, where it's like, oh, they live in the mountains and have these big civilizations in what would normally be quite inhospitable places. They must have their own means of doing things that's a bit different, or, you know, like they can grow food or make food in their weird mountain homes, you know.
For the sake of what we've created, because I don't know if you know what we've actually done with our dwarves.
Yes, they're made from rock, aren't they? Literally.
Yeah. They are literally formed from the rock themselves, and they get everything they require from the rock, or the living rock as we placed it. I kind of also like the idea that perhaps our this special stone which we've created, which I've already forgotten the name of,
Casamite.
Tasmite.
Casamite. There we are. They can effectively use it almost like a compass of sort. It points them in a rough direction, in a 3D compass
So
of
they
where
have
living
a-
rock might be.
They have a need
Plus-
for casamite or refined casamite.
I would place down that they would have a need for refined casamite.
So I think it sounds like the refined one is the one that just what everybody wants. And it's only you sort of you good.
Actually, no. Yeah, thinking about it, it would almost like they have a natural magic anyway. It's a natural magic of the in which case this natural magic, the only magic which they can actually acquire is effectively to find more of themselves. So perhaps the unrefined casamite would suit better.
Because then again, there's like these two groups. You've got the dwarves and then high magic users who are wanting, because it's the high magic users who want the raw stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're like, then there's two groups who are saying we want it. You know, like so I think that's like a good, a tussle of, who gets it, especially because the dwarfs are going, well, this is how we make more dwarves. Like we
Exactly.
need
This
it.
is our reproduction. This is
Yeah.
how we survive as a species.
They just wanted to cast fireball.
Yeah.
We're looking to like carry on.
The other thing that we have mentioned about the dwarves is that they are creators and crafters. So do we want to put the artisans here?
I think it makes a lot of sense.
But then are they going to be just artisans in stone?
I feel that they would be stone and metal based.
Stone and metal.
Let's put it this way, that they would have the highest proficiency possible when it comes down to working with metal and stone, because they come across it so often and can do things, and considering that they literally craft new dwarfs out of the stone, they can craft out of that quite easily.
Yeah.
But they will attempt with other materials. So if they were given wood to try and make let's say a very special wooden table, they would try. It might not end up being the same quality, and it would probably take a particular artisan or of particular skill there. But they are generally at best stone and metal.
Could this be like the dwarves' USP, that like they can work with stone and metal in the way that the other people would work with wood, in like
Well, that's what I was thinking when
the
it came
same
down.
fine work or the same sort of things that other people would go, we can only do that in wood. They're like, no, we can make
do
that
that
in
in
stone.
stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I imagine the forest dwellers to effectively have the artisan side of things of wood instead, where
Yeah.
I mean, that is where I was going to go next. Is saying we've now got Torgalard, which is where the elves live. That's that big forest in the middle.
yeah.
I don't know if Torgalard is the entirety of that forest or just the central city and the rest of the forest has another name. I don't think we've discussed that bit yet.
No, I don't think we have actually. It was generally said that that's just where the elves were, basically.
I mean, I think the description... Let me read the description and I'll see if it mentions it. The elves live in trees. You don't notice them until that you can get in close enough, and then you notice the slit windows in the trees or the vines growing into walkways between the trees. Nothing is carved out. It's grown and shaped, either over time or via druidic magic. If you are a friend to Torgalard or enter the surrounding forest with good intentions, you find yourself able to journey through it with ease. If you attempt to harm the forest or the wildlife within it, you suddenly find the forest fighting back against you. We provide for the forest and the forest provides for us. They are in a symbiotic relationship.
That to me would suggest there's not like a city or a town even that is just very diffused through the whole forest of like the population of elves.
Yeah, I think Torgalard refers to the entirety of the forest, and the elves are spread out throughout that.
Yeah.
Must admit, I wasn't sure whether Torgalad might have counted as the main tree, because you imagine that with this society as well, there would be a person
Oh yeah, like
or
it's
a
it's like
collective who
the
are in
mother
charge.
tree or whatever it is in
Yeah,
Avatar.
I mean, effectively, that would be the starting place before you go anywhere else. That this is your council building, this is your other thing, but because you need someone who would make a decision to help and join in with the Lawfell.
Yeah, because yeah, it's no good you saying we've got a like anarchist diffuse society, so we're all equal and there's no leaders, and then lawful turn up and say, right,
Who's in
okay,
charge here?
let's
Yeah.
then you need at least some people to go like, oh, we're going to speak on behalf of our community.
I am
But
the Lorax and I speak for the
Torgalad,
trees.
yeah. But
Trees.
Torgalad being effectively the forest, in which case having a name of the central tree or whatever we want to call it is probably not a bad idea, because then that is your central location or your main location within it.
Or is Torgalard the central tree and we need... It says, if you are a friend to Torgalard, or enter the surrounding forest. So
That's true.
I think if we stick with Torgalard is the central tree, sort of the biggest, the oldest, and there are elves living in it. Multiple elves, probably, because it's a really big tree.
The other side of things, considering a symbiotic relationship as sorts, that effectively the forest doesn't have a name, or not one which they will accept, because the forest is what the forest is, and though it may have had a name, it is far too ancient for even them to remember.
The forest is just the forest.
Yeah.
I know. I always think, like how say like with the United Kingdom, and like if you were from Scotland or Wales or Ireland or even England, and like outsiders do not understand the complicated thing of, well, there's the UK and then there's Great Britain and then there's these. Could it be like everyone else might just say Tor Galore, like that's that place, and then the elves would go, no, you don't understand, and then like get into
Torgalard's just the tree and the... I like that.
Society to properly get a grasp of what that term means and what it refers to. Whereas the elves like, yes, talk a lot.
I liked calling it just the forest. But I also like that everybody else calls it Torgalard and nobody fully understands that it's... Torgalard refers to the bell inside the clock tower, not the clock tower itself.
Yeah. Oh, I like that, yeah. And there does seem to be another forest as well, isn't there? Like,
I mean, I feel
that
that other forest is probably... That's where we need to have something that cuts down the trees.
That's a more typical...
Yeah.
Because Torgalard is big magical forest, and if you cut down the trees, it goes real bad for you.
And at the same time, when it comes down to, I can believe them giving vegetation, or once again, with it being a symbiotic relationship, effectively, the trees which have fallen or have come to their time being given to Lawfell. But it's effectively like a peace treaty of sorts. And
you get
that
something.
is a gesture of goodwill. Look, if you don't chop our trees, every time we have something, we'll give it to you. We're happy for that. But it has come to its time and it is of no use to us.
But we're not cutting down healthy trees.
Yes, but if you start to cut down our trees, then it is effectively war.
Because obviously, like, forest fires are a natural part of how forests grow, and eventually you need to clear some space for new things to come in.
Exactly. And it's that whole side of things, because of their particular understanding of the trees and of the way of the land, that they know when they need to do X, Y, and Z, when they need to clear, when these things happen. It's their connection that allows them to understand that. And so effectively, outsiders are not allowed to do that part, but we will do it, and you may have the resource which comes from it as they're part of this peaceful relationship. In turn, I can see that, once again, the resource of our stone, considering we're placing down the druidic magic, that it could have a effect in that regard as well, where it's a bolstering effect giving to, once again, being symbiotic, giving to the forest and letting the forest do what it needs to with the item rather than doing something to the forest in itself. The forest reacts to the stone, so they believe it has good use. Because you imagine a forest is going to have a lot of the resources you need already. Because there's going to be sources of water, there's going to be food quite freely around.
So are we saying they want Kazamite?
I think we're saying that they want Casamite, unless anyone has something else to throw in.
Well, I mean, do they need like worked goods, like swords, that they don't know how to make, they can't make? Do they need like?
I imagine
that's a good point.
They probably don't have blacksmiths in the forest for reasons of fire bad for trees.
Actually, that is a very good point, especially for the sake of after the war, or the many wars which had gone on before the Unity began, where though they had their magics and such, they didn't have a way of physical defense, proper physical defense, and so saw the benefit of getting swords and potentially armor and to train into that side of things. And so that's where they see their want from the outside world. They don't need any. Very handy for protecting our forest.
So I've put down that they want Kazamite to enhance the blimey, words. Kazamite to enhance the druidic magic used to shape their trees, and weapons and armor.
I mean, it could be, again, it doesn't have to just be weapons and armor, but like, not even machines, but complex goods that can they make glass, for example? Like, that's something they can do in that forest. Just items that take, because of the way they live their lives, they just don't have. I was also wondering as well, in terms of like with the weapons, like I was imagining, like, as you say, like, it sounds like the forest will defend itself. If you fight the elves on their turf, if you go to the forest, you are going to lose.
If you go down to the woods today, you're going to have a nasty
Yeah.
surprise.
Yeah, but the elves aren't very good at fighting once they leave that environment. So again, that's why they want the swords and the armor, because it's like, well, when we leave there, we don't have a big tree who's gonna stomp on someone.
Makes a lot of sense.
Like we were gonna need like a sort of, if we ever want to be like offensive,
the magical wood armor and mech suits only go so far.
Yeah. It is connected to their forest, so if they leave the confines of the forest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also goes to say that if you were to have anything which was bolstered by the forest, which you acquired outside and went in, that it would regain that bolstering. So long as you are of aid, in which case, if you proved yourself to be quite evil, there's a very good chance that it would actually turn out more like cursed armor and envelop you instead.
So, 2 more places that I feel we need to touch on before we wrap up the stream for tonight.
Now, I'm going to jump back to what was said before when it came down to glass, because I figure the desert is the perfect place for that.
It
So long as it gains
seems a
its
good place to
resources.
have to
Maybe
have
not
glass
Sanctuary Springs,
makers.
considering what we've made it to be, because it's a very difficult place to get to and such. But I can imagine it's more somewhere on the edge. But not to say there's not something Sanctuary Springs couldn't have a go at it themselves. The problem is that we made Sanctuary Spring effectively in the middle of the desert and very difficult to get to.
I think it's also like it's one of the central places within the desert. So anything that's
Yeah.
made anywhere else in the desert, like unless you're on the edge of the desert and taking it straight up to
Yeah.
the place, Sanctuary
This is your
Springs is
easiest
where
place.
it's being traded.
Yeah, it's the only place.
I mean, do you know Timbuktu, the city, like the real place? Like
I've never
that's
personally been, no.
yeah, but that's like it was like a massive trading place because it's like where the desert ended, that was the first place. So all the caravans that traveled through the desert, essentially, if they wanted food and water, they had to go to Timbuktu. Like if you didn't go there, you would die before you'd make it to the next place. So like, could Sanctuary Springs also be a place where it's like, if you're traveling through that area, again, not just but like you've got to go there because that's where you're gonna survive. That's where you're gonna get.
I mean,
Yeah.
we've
anything.
sort of
It's in the
established
name,
that
isn't it?
it's where there's water. Yeah, it's
Right, it's right
It's
there
about
in the
the
name.
only place where you can guarantee it.
it is
There's
sanctuary.
Sanctuary Springs.
Yeah.
Which is the reason why they called it Sanctuary in the first place.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd definitely place down glass and anything of that sort there.
And then we had this. We were talking about the other weird rock that was magic.
Yes.
Repelling or.
And I believe that when it comes down to it, what I was saying, sort of placing is that perhaps that's something which hasn't been found, but there are some areas of the desert where magic doesn't seem to work. In
null
which
zones.
case, yeah, null zones, which obviously they want to investigate. And there is the belief that there is a stone that nullifies. And it could be another material. We haven't necessarily had to place that one down exactly, but there are null zones in the desert which seem to nullify any magic or trying for whatever. In which case, I can imagine this place is full of inventors who have tried to find different ways to, one, survive the desert, and for two, to try and either find or acquire these items wherever they might be. In which case, they also have things which are machines of survival. I imagine that some of your inventors would be here.
Necessity, like
Yeah.
it's in Vector's Haven it's an industry, and here it's how you survive is
And
we
this
are
is the thing
inventive.
that, yeah, they make the rough versions of things. They try stuff out. It kind of works. And then if there's something which they want to invest in, they send over a request to Vector's Haven to have something made proper as a proper machine to get sent back over. So effectively, these are the ones who test out, like Leonardo da Vinci, creating little wooden versions of things, basically using whatever they happen to have around. And it wouldn't surprise me if they make glass structures, because glass is the quickest and easiest thing around. To which I would also place down that they would potentially have a sun kiln. Because once again, you're in the desert. What is the one thing which you have more than anybody else, and that is the sun. And if you've created glass, you can certainly create a sun kiln.
So I've put down that they have glass and worked items made from glass. Any trade items that are made in the desert need to pass through Sanctuary Springs before heading north. Artificers guilds that make inventions to head into the desert to explore the null zones.
Yeah.
So if you were a wizard right, or a sorcerer, and you came down into this area, say let's say near one of these null zones, would it be like your magic doesn't work, or would it be it's like wild magic where it might be unreliable?
I think it depends on how close you
Yes.
get to.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel it's very much a suck it and find out.
Yeah, because obviously
exactly.
it's not going to be much fun for a player if it's like, your squishy wizard is now just a squishy guy.
I think
I
it's
grant
very
you, but
much
when it
a,
comes down,
if you are going to explore a null zone, the group will know about it beforehand.
oh god, yes.
Like it's not ever going to be a sudden surprise. Null zone,
Yeah, it's one of those things where null zones are
probably.
of.
I'm not ruling it out.
If I was placing this one down, if I was going to try and run a game around using null zones, one, it would be common knowledge that null zones exist,
Yes.
which is the reason why most likely you have created a party that can compensate for when the magic sort of cuts out, because null zones are not fully understood. And I'd have it down that if you, as you get closer to the core, so to start off, as you start to come across the outside, you might find that your magic is playing around and starting to turn a bit more wild magic, up until the point where you get closer to the center part where it almost just gives out entirely. In which case, one of the greatest things which they might want, if they want to find and acquire these stones, are willing mages and wizards and magic users to effectively work like a compass as well in this area.
Suddenly walking out, going cantrip, cantrip, cantrip,
Yeah.
cantrip.
Exactly.
Oh, it's not stopped. It stopped working, guys.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
like
dangerous
magic.
thing because it could end up being cantrip, 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 fireball, depending on, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where there's a reason why the wizards don't just willy-nilly come down all the time to do this. It becomes something where it's a bargaining chip of sorts. Look, if you want to have whatever we're giving, and I think they need to have something special to do this, then you're going to have to send someone down to just work a day with us. And it's almost like working. We're training with workers here instead. Now, I reckon that there'll be other things down there, like particular plants which only grow in desert materials and stuff like that. But and I reckon it'll probably be more like an exotic sort of thing. But there's got to be a bit more about the sanctuary springs, which they have to play with. But I like that idea that they can effectively trade for a person of magical standing to come down. You're our test subject, effectively. We need you to just walk in that direction, casting cantrips until something happens. Because in turn, that becomes an interesting storyline, and a reason why it might be interesting for your magic caster as well. To literally slowly go through and realize that their magic's drying up. And it's not that they're out of ways, they now need to think of a different way to play in that situation. It's not that they're never going to be able to do anything, it's just that at this moment, they have served their first purpose of finding the location and walking in the right direction. And now they perhaps need to work in the background to try and just aid as best they can in a way they haven't had to before.
So the final point on the map at the moment that I think we need to discuss is Sunspire.
I think you've cut out again.
I said Sunspire.
Yeah, I didn't hear Sunspire at all.
Okay.
We inferred it from what we saw on the screen.
The final point on the map is Sunspire, which is the heart of the avian civilization and is a hard-to-reach mountaintop city that other people can't easily get to, which makes trade difficult.
Yeah. Do they need it? Do they have anything to trade? Do they need anything to trade?
I'm going to say, gonna go out on a limb and say they've been doing pretty well up there, and they probably don't.
So
Once again, I think it comes around to that stone again. Once again, if we have any in Denver, all the races were fighting over it. That
They
would be
need
the
it
key
for
part.
something.
But the second part of it, though, is perhaps more the belief with the Amber Wolf archives. It's not necessarily that they actually need anything, but their belief is to spread knowledge and to acquire knowledge. So their main part was more, we want to come down and see what you're doing, and we've seen this side of things. This is history in the making. We want to archive it. In turn, we also wish to aid you with our knowledge.
I mean, one
Almost
other...
like making them like the monks of this world. That they're not trying to gain anything. It's more for the good of good.
One
No,
other
How
thing...
about how about they trade for knowledge? They trade
Yeah.
for stories.
And that makes a lot of sense.
Were the avians the sort of fancy we're better than everyone?
A little
El-
bit.
Elves and avians have an argument over which one are the fancy, better than everyone
Yeah.
people, and both sides
mean-
believe that they are the fancy, better than everyone people.
So could one of the things that they want be like your luxury goods, your fancy things that maybe up in the mountains it's hard to get?
That would make a lot of sense, once again, giving that sort of one-upmanship when it comes down to their particular homestead.
Prestige goods.
In which case,
If
they want the fine artisan goods.
I was just thinking, something else just came to mind. If we just saying they're like the monks of the world, why don't they trade in wine?
They make
That's another
wine.
idea.
Why not?
Up in mountains.
I mean, the other
Looks like-
another thing to suggest is we've obviously got the discussion that there are Emberwolf archives in multiple places, multiple libraries around Tamrinor. Do we have sort of a magical network here?
Oh,
Where
yes.
potentially there is a teleportation circle network.
Oh, that could be quite good.
That works actually, yeah. So they're not trading from the mountain directly; they're trading through all subsidiary monasteries, essentially.
Yeah, but also that they can then trade in that transportation.
That
Like,
makes a lot of sense.
It's too much for, like, it's difficult to do something like teleporting a thing of Casamite. One, because it's Casamite and it's a magical ore, and you don't want to shove that in a teleportation network because God knows what'll happen. And the last time you tried it, everybody you teleported with ended up 10,000 miles off target in a mountain somewhere. And, you know, we're still waiting for Steve's legs to rematerialize.
That hole in the map where there's nothing. That's what happens there when we do that.
But it's good for transporting people that need to get around quickly, important people, or, you know, say a group of heroes suddenly needs to get from Vectis Haven to Lawfell, or Lawfell to Honeywell, or to Sunspire.
Not just not just people, communication messages.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's how you get.
absolutely.
That's how you get messages across the map quickly.
You have
'Cause it does
points
sound
that
like-
you
Once
can
again,
get
that makes
to.
sense for the information. Considering they care about information more than anything else.
You know that they would never just, they would never like destroy a message or degrade a message because like information is so valuable to them.
That makes a lot of sense.
I think as well, like this sounds like one of the few organizations that has like specific outposts in like every city. So like, are these the people? Like, I know this because like when they had like the Crusades, right? And you're gonna go from like England to Jerusalem, and you've got your 500 bits of gold, and what you could do is you'd rock up at the local place in London, give them your 500 gold, you get a piece of paper saying they've deposited that in London. You get to Jerusalem, and then you could say, you give me 500 gold, here's my bit of paper. So like this is the way where like things are facilitated across the whole continent.
What you're saying is they're the Templar Knights.
Yeah, like they because of their range and their ubiquitous presence, they can do all the like communication, transportation, maybe even sort of like banking and sorting things out, diplomacy, all these other things that other people would struggle to do because they're based in their city.
But then
Even
that
like
also gives them a lot of power as well because they are the only people who can do that, who know how that works. That gives them a lot of power.
yeah. But it
Is
sounds like they
that a
don't.
bad thing?
Yeah, because it sounds like they don't have much to trade. So what they've got is this network, based off the very wonderful idea of the was it Emberwolf
Yeah.
library? Like
Emberwolf
that's a wonderful idea.
Archives.
But a side benefit of that is that they now have a presence in like every city, every place. Maybe not every place, but like
Is that a bad thing? It depends who's in charge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, like, it sounds like we're given. There's various groups here. They've all got like their levers of power that they can pull on. Oh no,
Yeah.
the factory's been a bit slow. We're not going to get any refiner. Or it's been a bad harvest, so it's taking a bit longer to get the food. Like, and it gives them all these.
Oh, somebody said a spell wrong, and now the military report has gone somewhere else. I don't know where it is. Yeah.
Teleport's
Happens,
gone down. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if only we'd had more of those tax. When we were asking about,
I do also like the idea of them as an idea. Once again, for the sake that they like items for status and the way that it looks, and they have means already. They don't need anything else. But when it comes down to the Kazamite, that is something they want, but they will never use. Because they don't have a way to use it. They don't have a need to use it. But it becomes more of a status point because everyone in the world is trying to get this stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll provide a service if you give us someone this, so we can show that we have it.
Here's our Kazamite necklace. Here's our Kazamite. You guys are desperate to use it all. We just that's a paperweight. We just
Exactly.
have it on our desk.
Especially like the idea of them effectively using it as jewelry, in which case you could acquire a bit of Kazamite jewelry along the lines in the game, which have been dropped or lost or looted off or whatnot. In which case you could use the Kazamite if you're a magic user, effectively having an item which you can rip off, use, and then it's gone. But it's a way of storing a bolt of magic left, an extra spell slot or something like that. But it becomes it's a limited use.
You're not going to give someone a really powerful magic item that lasts forever.
No, exactly.
No. So I think that's covered pretty much everywhere we've got on the map at the moment. One that we haven't placed on the map yet, and I don't know if we want to do this without Sean being around, because Sean sort of came up with the town. But we might want to discuss a little bit their resources, what they have and what they offer. Is we've got Rock Bottom. Tanny loves Rock Bottom.
I think I've missed this place in the.
Yeah, I missed this one as well.
So Rock Bottom was a town that Sean and I came up with in a session 2 months ago, where we were doing a drawing. Tanny was drawing Novally, which I believe we're going to get back to next month and finishing off that drawing. And we decided to come up with a new place based on, and I've been trying to come up with a way to get this into the thing. The Ultimate RPG Game Master's World Building Guide, which is currently in a humble bundle right now.
Sponsor.
Plug. Seamlessly dropping that in there. We had a look at the Ultimate RPG Game Master's World Building Guide, and there is a thing in there. One of the prompts in the book, in the general system neutral thing, is we built this city on talk and rolls, where it basically helps you build a city with some discussion, but also some dice rolling to randomize how your city is built. And so we came up with Rock Bottom, which is a medium-sized town. It's sort of smaller than a lot of the places that we've mentioned so far, possibly about the same size as somewhere like Honeywell. It's a contained area. It has very distinct borders. And is a modern town. It's only been around for a few hundred years. But it used to have a vibrant industry, but that has dramatically changed, and it has... the town itself is sort of fading. But it does have a vibrant art scene, and it does have access to a magical resource. It is also built above and around an ancient metropolis, and a historical disaster that took place there, such as, say, I don't know, Casamite exploding. Possibly, that's possibly a historical disaster that could have occurred there, has necessitated the building of unique countermeasures to whatever occurred. The only thing that we know that is there at Rock Bottom at the moment is the Rock Bottom School of Statue Making, which is a modern, inspiring school that is detailed and iconic, and it is a stone building with thatched straw roofs. And the character of Agatha Marashire is an ordinary citizen who lives in Rock Bottom. She runs a shop, who doesn't suffer fools lightly. She has valuable information and needs something important from the player characters should they ever meet her. She is 92 and frequently reminds people of this fact. So I guess sort of my question is, what is the magical resource? Because I feel that it can't be Casamite, because we've discussed that Lawfell has the only source of Casamite.
I mean, when you mentioned about some calamity happened there, I was thinking we seem to discuss these two substances. One, Casamite, that is good for magic, and then another one which is bad for magic. Could Rockbot...
Once again, I fear that you've cut out, for me at least. I don't know if I've cut out for everybody else as well. I fear I may have done. Am I still here? Can anyone still hear me? Good.
I can hear you. Things did go very silent for a bit.
Oh, I'm
Richard.
talking, but...
Richard dropped out. I had John drop out and then Richard drop out as well.
Well, yes.
You said could Rock Bottom, and then what else did you say after that?
It cuts out on dramatic moments.
It does cut out at really opportune moments for you to...
Yeah.
And now I think this next bit of thing I'm going to say is really important.
When I reveal who the killer is. But yes, what I was saying was Rock Bottom, because it sounds like we've got Casamite, which is good for magic, and then another thing.
They call it anti-Casamites just for the placeholder.
Could this Rock Bottom, when you said it was like an ancient metropolis and it was a disaster, like could that be the nature of the disaster where these two things collided or came together or were mixed in a weird experiment to see what would happen? Because I was going to ask before,
the sound of that.
What happens if you bring Casamite into a null zone?
That's the other side of things, of whether or not they actually knew that's what they were doing.
Yeah. And like, was that like matter and antimatter in Star Trek, where like, that could, mess things up.
Considering that they're so renowned for their statues, if they'd made a statue out of the anti-mite, the anti-Casamite, and it was, let's say it was a statue for the sake of the King of Unknown Origins, and they wanted to use the stone as a figment in its crown, for example, and effectively connected the two.
Yeah, like you shouldn't do that. Like, you know, that's crossing the streams in Ghostbusters or whatever.
Well,
You know,
now,
it's
now you know you shouldn't do it.
Well,
Now you
the
know
other
you shouldn't
side
do
of
it.
things is how many survivors would actually remember that?
and they say like they might not know what they did to do that.
Exactly. All
Yeah.
they knew is that they got the Kazamite and put it in. This could be one of the few places that doesn't want Kazamite around because they don't know what happened with it, but it caused an explosion.
Because you know who might want a statue that's like made of like weird rare rocks like Kazamite and stuff? Those bloody avians.
Yeah.
They'd be like, give me a statue made of like the rarest rocks and but yeah, like I just thought that could be like the reason why. And again, like I like that idea of like we don't really know what happened. We've got some hints, but you know the people who were doing it, they're all
Yeah.
dead because they're just dust now. They were vaporized in. So you know, like don't know. But again, could you have like some fallout radiation type thing in the city?
I mean, I was
which
going to
has a
say,
useful purpose.
is there something left over in the weave of magic where this is now a permanently wild zone or a permanently
That is
unstable
brilliant.
magic?
Now, this is an idea I've used in the city I made, Homeroom City, but like of a place where like you could basically wrap up with a sword, and you put the sword here, and you come back in a week, and it's magic. Now you don't know what that's going to do to it. You don't know whether it's going to be, you know, just a +1 sword effectively, or if it's going to turn into a dragon made of swords.
Something's going to happen.
You don't know, but something will happen.
Yeah.
So you could get something really amazing out of this, or it could be something really bad, and you don't want that. And like, oh crap, that was a. So yeah, that's just a suggestion for like what.
I like
Tanny's ears have perked up. You said the magic word.
that. I will say, I think as well, how about there was a survivor of that incident, but because it was a magical explosion of sorts, that they are alive, they will be permanently alive, but they're in a state which sort of pops in and out. But constantly trying to get people to fix the issue and wants to give as much information as possible, but they're never able to stay around long enough to give the full story, in which case they're almost become like the haunted figure which people try and avoid because that place is haunted, it's full of ghosts and all that, which defeats the object which they were aiming for.
This person, like, could it be like they're not completely lucid because they're seeing in like, you know, 9 dimensions?
Exactly.
So they're trying to explain something quite simple, but because it's like, well, I can see through time. So, you know.
Well, I like the idea of them being in 9 dimensions as well, just to say that you're not the only people they're talking to.
Yeah.
Have we just entered into the realms of cosmic horror and sort of thing?
Effectively.
I mean, it's also it feels very sort of timey-wimey. Like I'm explaining this all to you.
Wobbly.
I've explained all. I am going to have explained all of this to you, but you just have to stick around long enough for me to get from point C to B to A. Unfortunately, it's going to be out of order for you guys. But to me, I'm explaining this perfectly ordinary fact that, you know, you just have to rearrange it to come back to it. Or it's like, you know, either the sort of taking the pop cultural examples, either the Agnes Nutter witch example of, yeah, I see the thing that's wrong. I have no idea what modern technology is, but I can vaguely describe it based on where I am. Or the Doctor Who sort of example of the Weeping Angels, the DVD Easter eggs, where I'm having a conversation and nobody else understands it until the right person shows up who is having the other half of this conversation.
I mean, I was thinking as well, like, you know, like if someone said, "Oh, we need to do this thing. We can't get into this castle," and this person might be like, oh, what you want to do is, right, you know, when you like you push atoms and you rearrange them and you turn iron into, you know, something else, because I can do that. I can just push atoms around and rearrange them. You just do that.
Yeah, you
Just walk through the wall because it's not there.
what? Why do you walk through that like it's? Why don't you just walk through that like it's not there? Because like I can.
Why don't you just manipulate gravity? You know.
Oh, that could be an interesting one.
Because
There's a reason why they're stuck in that location.
I
Each
like
of the
that.
different realms has a different way out, so they can't get through the door.
We might have like different physical laws govern those realms. So it's like, yeah, I can walk through something here, but in this other one, that's not how movement works.
So they're almost stuck in not just like the physical Tamrinor, but they're also simultaneously in the slumbering twilight and the Garden of Starless Skies. They're in all three of these dimensions at once. When normally you get to one, you have one dimension you get to exist in, one realm you're in.
I always like to think of like you've got this potentially incredibly powerful figure, but are unable to express themselves or unable to properly affect the world. So at the right time, if a party came to see this person and get some information, they're not just going to say, this is what you need to do. It's like they get almost like a riddle.
Yeah.
Or you know, I can sort of explain it to you, but not fully. So you're not just going to give the party everything they need. But it's like, oh, he's a bit of what you might need. Or I could potentially just, you know, click my fingers and change it all.
The other side of things, that it was so important to remember it that they made sure that it was a method which they could remember. So, you know, like making mnemonics and stuff like that. That doesn't remember what the solution is, but remembers the mnemonic which they created so wouldn't forget it. Thus creating the riddle which you need to figure out in order to do the pit.
My very early morning jam sandwich, something.
I mean, I always like stuff like Dr. Manhattan, where it's almost like, as well, like, incredibly powerful. He doesn't always care. He doesn't connect with people in the same way, so he's not as motivated to get involved. Or like...
Again, we are definitely venturing into the realms of there is a cosmic horror here. Because that sort of very much is a cosmic horror who used to be normal, used to be a normal person maybe, and then, and now he's Dr. Manhattan, magical Manhattan.
And we are headed that way, but it definitely feels natural as well.
I also like the idea that we've got a space here around Rock Bottom, around this ancient citadel, this ancient civilization that at one point just went kablooey and is gone, and now Rock Bottom is built up around it. And like there's obviously this space that nobody goes to because it's haunted, and don't go there because it's haunted and that's bad. But also you've got this, the weave of magic has a constant wibble to it here, so it's unpredictable in some way. I like that idea, and I think we should keep that idea.
I think that gives you a lot of scope to do things with this. They're having a place where things don't work quite the way they should. It's like you've got a lot of options with that.
Yeah. I'm not going to write down those notes yet. I will write them down later because there's a decent amount of them, and it'll take me a while to do.
I think you typing that all out is great streaming.
It's wonderful stream quality entertainment of just, here's some typing, epic typing music. I think what we should do is finish up this call this session of the council to a close, and like I need to get a gavel for some time. Gavel this session to a close. Don't have a gavel at the moment. I'll use this bottle opener. I call this session to a close. So I think we've got a couple of ideas of what we're going to discuss in future sessions. One, I think... I'm just going to look at the calendar real fast. I know we've discussed having Tanny back on in the next session. Can we push that back to February? Because then we have the drawing of Novalee being finished around, I don't know, Valentine's Day. I don't know if there's any connection between having our goddess of love finished around a, thing, but that's a thing, and Tanny apparently likes the idea, so I'm going to say that's a thing we're going to do, which leaves us open in January, and I'm going to suggest that we continue with this discussion of the weave of magic. And we discuss the magic of our setting. Because basically, obviously, a lot of the magic of our setting is just going to be, it's D&D and it works the way it does in the D&D rulebooks. But also, I've got some homebrew rules I would like to introduce into the magic setting. And I think that we can have some discussions on magic. And we've already impacted magic in other ways in this particular session. So I think next time, if we do further discussions on magic, that'll be interesting.
Sounds good to me.
And then, yeah, we'll do magic next time, and then we'll have Tanny on to finish drawing Novalee, the goddess of love, not magic. In February, where we can also discuss the other thing I brought up in our council session discussion the other day, which is sort of, when is this done? Like, what do we need to do to have it done? What is the minimum, and working out how much more there is to do. But yeah, I think this is a good place to wrap up. I hope everybody agrees with me.
Yeah.
At least one person agrees with me, so I'm going to, we've reached quorum.
Let's take that, yeah.
Democracy in action.
Yeah,
One person said one thing, the majority said nothing, and we went with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's...
I always knew I was going to get into politics.
Thank you guys in the chat so much for watching, despite any technical difficulties that definitely didn't happen. If you haven't done so already, please do hit that follow button. It's a great way for you guys to know when we go live, a completely free way that you can support us on the channel. It really does mean a lot to us. It allows us to keep doing the things that we're doing, and it lets you know when to be here to see the things that we are doing. We also have a Discord chat that you can join, a Discord server that you can join to continue the chat with us. We have spaces there for the Council of Tamrinor discussion specifically, so if there is anything you wish to bring up and discuss, there is a space for that on the Discord, and we have previously brought things that have been commented in there up in the next session, so if you want to discuss something, bring it up in there and we can talk about it on the stream, and it can go into the lore books, and hopefully at some point we'll work out a way to write these lore books up in a way that you can access them and play in this world is the long-term plans. We also have a YouTube channel that you can go to catch all of the previous streams that we have done. Head on over there, subscribe, and ring the little bell to get notifications for when new videos go live. And we also have a website, too many W's, cut some of those off. finalbossfight.co.uk is your one-stop shop for all things Final Boss Fight related. We have... There's too many W's, Tanny. Lose some of them. We have all of the previous videos. We have a lot of written content on there, including way back in the day when Geoff did some stories in the original Tamrinor setting. That you can go and find and see and enjoy. It also has links to the Discord and the YouTube to make it even easier for you to find those things. And what else do I say at this point? I think that's it. So let's go and have a look at the outro-y segment of this, where we say that we have all of these things coming up. Tomorrow night, the Rime of the Frost Maiden continues. The last Rime of the Frost Maiden of the year, where the group is continuing to make their way through Sunblight Fortress. On Monday, Angel is going to be playing some Yakuza 0. Ben, are you doing Stardew on Monday?
I will be doing Stardew on Monday.
And then also on Monday, I'm going to be doing some more Marvel Midnight Suns. As we continue to try to get the Midnight Suns and the Avengers to work together. Either because Lilith is around and it's a really good idea to work together, or because they now have a Hulk. And, you know, it's a really good idea to work together against that, too. On Wednesday, Angel is going to be playing some Yakuza 0. Ben is going to be doing some Stardew Valley over on the Quest Givers channel. And later on FBF, hopefully we're going to be doing some Minecraft on the FBF Craft V3 server, where we're going to hopefully continue setting up some of the basics of mechanism and sort of getting ready for us to go to the end. On Thursday, Angel is continuing Yakuza 0. They're doing Yakuza 0 all the way until they finish it now. And then Saturday next week, we have got the FBF quiz night with the Christmas quiz, where you might be able to guess one of the rounds from the name of the quiz, which is, where are they taking those hobbits? But I also have a special Christmas-themed round, and we will have a round on general knowledge and a fourth round as yet to be determined. So tune in for those things, and many, many more other good times. But for now, it is time for us to do a raid and leave you for now in the capable hands of our good friend Spammels. Our good friend Spammels, who is playing some Rust. Go give Spammels some love. We'll see you guys again really soon. For now, so long. Bye, guys.
Bye.